Imagine waking up at 5:30 in the morning to a sound that does not originate from your pants. Smartphone. It is not a gentle melody playing soft acoustic guitar chords to ease you into the day. Instead, it is a city-wide speaker network mounted on gray concrete poles outside your window. The speakers are blaring a screeching revolutionary opera track about the glorious history of domestic tractor manufacturing. The audio quality sounds like a dial-up modem screaming through a tin can filled with gravel. But this is your mandatory daily alarm clock in the city of Pyongyang. The government believes that if you are allowed to sleep past dawn, the dark forces of Western capitalism might slip into your dreams. You throw off your thin blanket and step onto the cold linoleum floor of your small apartment. The first thing you see when you open your eyes is not a motivational poster or a picture of a scenic beach. Your eyes immediately lock onto two framed portraits hanging precisely at the highest point of your living room wall. They are the painted faces of the eternal leaders, looking down at you with frozen expressions of paternal approval. These portraits are not optional home decor elements that you picked up at a local department store. They are issued directly by the state, and they come with a terrifyingly specific instruction manual. You are given a specialized square of white cloth that is legally designated for cleaning these frames and nothing else. If you are caught using this sacred cloth to wipe away a soy sauce spill on your kitchen table, your entire week is ruined. It turns out that dust is considered a form of political counter-revolution. Every single month, a representative from the neighborhood watch will knock on your door to inspect the cleanliness of the frames. They will literally run a white-gloved finger across the top of the glass to check your loyalty to the regime. If they find a single speck of dust, you will spend your Saturday afternoon listening to a 3-hour lecture about revolutionary hygiene. It is a great system for people who always wanted their landlord to act like a drill sergeant. Right next to the portraits is another mandatory feature of your domestic environment. It is a gray plastic radio box that is hardwired directly into the wall of your apartment building. This radio does not have a tuning dial, an auxiliary port, or a Bluetooth antenna. It is tuned to a single fixed frequency that broadcasts state media reports 24 hours a day. You can turn the volume knob down so it becomes a soft murmur, but you can never actually turn the power off. It sits there in the corner of your room, humming softly like a toxic group chat that you are legally forbidden from leaving. It is like living with an invisible roommate who only wants to talk about steel production and agricultural quotas. You walk into the kitchen to wash your face, but nothing happens when you turn the faucet handle. The city infrastructure is ancient, meaning running water is only pumped to your building for 2 hours a day. You have to learn to plan your entire digestive schedule around the municipal water calendar. You scoop some stagnant water out of a giant plastic bucket you filled yesterday and splash it on your face. There is no hot water heater, so the freezing temperature instantly shocks your brain into absolute alertness. You look out the window at the streets below as the gray dawn light begins to hit the pavement. The city is completely devoid of the chaotic sounds that define modern urban life across the globe. There are no delivery trucks backing up with loud warning beeps, and there are no sirens echoing in the distance. There are no neon signs flashing advertisements for fast food, and there are no digital billboards tracking the stock market. The streets are filled with thousands of citizens walking in perfect, silent rows toward the transit stations. Everyone is moving with the quiet intensity of an army, marching toward a battle they did not volunteer to fight. Before you can join them on the pavement, you have to choose what you are going to wear today. Except the concept of choice is a bit different when your wardrobe is heavily monitored by civil servants. You open your closet and look at a collection of garments that all share the exact same color scheme. Your options range from dark industrial gray to deep olive green, with a few shades of muted navy blue for special occasions. The primary textile used for your clothing is a synthetic material known as vinylon. Vinylon is a locally invented fabric made from limestone and anthracite coal. It is stiff. It does not breathe well, and it smells faintly of a chemical manufacturing plant. But the state propaganda describes it as the ultimate revolutionary textile that frees the nation from foreign cotton dependencies. It is the only clothing material on Earth that double functions as a mild exfoliating scrub. If you try to break the monotony by wearing an imported item, you are playing a very dangerous game with the law. You cannot wear blue jeans under any circumstances because blue is the color of Western imperialist corruption. If you walk outside wearing a pair of denim pants, you might as well be wearing a sandwich board that says, "You love high-interest mortgages." Well, the fashion rules are enforced by an organization known as the Youth League Fashion Police. They are called the Gyuchaldae, and they stand at major intersections looking for lifestyle deviations. They do not care about traffic safety because there are barely any cars on the road to begin with. They care if your hair is touching your ears, or if your skirt does not reach your knees. If they catch you with an unapproved haircut, they will not give you a warning ticket or a small fine. They will pull you to the side of the road and fix your appearance, using a pair of dull kitchen shears right there on the sidewalk. And it is like having a high school principal who can sentence you to hard labor for your choice of footwear. To make things even easier for the population, the local barbershops feature a framed poster on the wall. This poster contains 28 government-approved hairstyles that have been deemed safe for public consumption. There are 15 choices for women and 13 choices for men, mostly consisting of various configurations of short back and sides. This completely eliminates the modern existential dread of sitting in a barber's chair trying to explain a style. You never have to try to describe a texturized mid-fade to a person who has never seen an internet connection. You just point at number 3 on the wall, nod your head, and accept your assigned aesthetic destiny. Once your hair is officially certified by the state, you grab your canvas bag and step out the door. Your walk to work takes you past the local administrative building, where your entire existence is cataloged. In the Western world, citizens spend their lives worrying about their credit scores or their search histories. In your world, the only metric that matters is a hidden bureaucratic classification known as Songbun. Songbun is a hereditary caste system that splits the entire population into 3 distinct sociological categories. You are either classified as part of the loyal class, the wavering class, or the hostile class. This score determines where you are allowed to live, what school you can attend, and if you are allowed to buy apples this month. The most terrifying part of this system is that your score was determined long before you were even a thought in your parents' minds. The bureaucratic machine tracks your family history all the way back to the 1950s. If your great-grandfather was a poor factory worker who fought against the Americans, your Songbun is golden. You get to live in a concrete apartment block in Pyongyang and eat white rice instead of cornmeal. But if your great-grandfather owned a small bicycle repair shop or spoke to a Methodist missionary, you are marked as hostile. The system assumes that treason is a genetic trait passed down through the bloodline like male pattern baldness, when it is a spectacular way to ensure you harbor a deep personal resentment toward an old man who died before you were born. You cannot fix a bad Songbun score by working harder or getting an advanced degree at a university. There are no corporate resume workshops or networking, events that can scrub the stains off your family file. If your file says your family is untrustworthy, you will spend your life working in a remote logging camp. You just carry the invisible ghost of your ancestors' career, choices around like a heavy lead weight on your spine. Your commute continues toward the subway station down a long escalator that descends deep into the earth. The Pyongyang subway system is buried over 300 feet below the surface of the ground. It was designed to double as a massive nuclear bomb shelter in case the global war starts up again. The stations are grand and cavernous, filled with marble pillars and massive bronze chandeliers that look like a palace. The walls are covered in enormous mosaic murals showing workers smiling while carrying giant bundles of wheat. The discrepancy between the golden murals and the pale, exhausted faces of the actual commuters is striking. No one on the train is looking down at a screen or listening to music through wireless headphones. Everyone is just staring blankly at the floor or reading the morning edition of the state newspaper pasted to a wooden board on the platform. The newspaper articles are always identical, featuring long paragraphs about the leadership inspecting a new fish farm. You read the same paragraph 3 times just to pass the time while the old train car rattles through the darkness. You finally arrive at your assigned workplace, which is a state-run bicycle assembly factory on the edge of the city. The concept of a job hunt is completely foreign to your understanding of human society. When you finish your education, the Ministry of Labor looks at your Songbun and hands you a slip of stamp-approved paper. This paper tells you exactly which factory or farm you will report to for the rest of your working life. You do not get to negotiate your salary, your vacation days, or your health insurance benefits. In fact, your official monthly salary from the state is worth roughly $1 American in the real market. That is not a hyperbolic joke about inflation, or a metaphor for a weak currency. It is literally a single piece of paper that might buy you a handful of salt or a single loose cigarette if you are lucky. The employee benefits package consists entirely of being legally permitted to clap during mandatory assemblies. Suddenly, the factory supervisor climbs onto a wooden stool and blows a loud metal whistle. He clears his throat and announces that the management is launching a new 70-day speed battle. A speed battle is a periodic government campaign designed to solve economic shortages through industrial panic. During a speed battle, all standard labor laws and safety regulations are officially suspended by the committee. The factory doors are locked and the shifts are extended to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. The managers blast loud military brass music through the old speakers to keep the workers from passing out from exhaustion. It is identical to the intense crunch culture found in modern Silicon Valley tech companies, but without the gourmet espresso bars. Instead of a stock option or a holiday bonus, your reward for surviving the month is a red paper star on the factory bulletin board. You spend the next 12 hours using a rusted wrench to attach front wheels to heavy steel bicycle frames. The machinery in the factory dates back to the era of the Soviet Union and breaks down every 40 minutes. There is no insulation in the building, so during the winter months, your skin sticks to the cold metal tools. You have to blow on your fingers every few seconds just to keep them from freezing into rigid claws. But you cannot stop moving your hands or lean against the wall to rest your aching back for even a minute. The factory floor is filled with informants who are watching your body language for signs of ideological fatigue. If you look too tired, it is interpreted as a lack of enthusiasm for the socialist construction of the nation. Every Friday afternoon, the entire workforce is gathered into a cold auditorium for the weekly self-criticism session. This meeting is a mandatory psychological ritual where every citizen must publicly confess their sins. You have to stand up in front of 50 of your peers and explain how your thoughts strayed during the week. You have to read from a small notebook and confess that you felt lazy on Tuesday morning instead of thinking about production. Then, you are required to point at your closest friend in the room and accuse him of a minor infraction. You have to state that you saw him looking at his reflection in a window instead of focusing on his wrench. It is a team-building exercise designed by a psychologist who specialized in industrial paranoia. It really brings a whole new meaning to the concept of awkward office politics. When your 14-hour shift finally concludes, you do not head home to relax on the couch. You walk through the dark alleyways toward an open dirt lot on the edge of the residential district. This lot is the location of the local Jangmadang, which is the informal black market of the city. Back in the 1990s, the official state distribution system completely ran out of food and supplies. The government stopped sending out the monthly rations of grain oil and soap that people needed to survive. The citizens quickly realized that if they sat around waiting for the bureaucracy to feed them, they would starve to death. So out of pure survival instinct, people began trading their personal belongings for food on the street corners. Over the last few decades, these illegal markets have evolved into the true economic engine of the entire country. The most fascinating aspect of this underground capitalist economy is that it is run almost entirely by married women. The men are legally obligated to show up to their official state factory jobs every day, even though they pay nothing. If a man skips his factory shift to sell things at the market, he will be arrested by the police within 24 hours. But married women have a legal loophole because they are classified as housewives who take care of the home. The aunties of the nation use this loophole to turn themselves into international smuggling tycoons. They never underestimate the business acumen of a middle-aged woman who is trying to buy rice for her children. You walk past rows of wooden crates and plastic sheets spread out over the frozen mud. The market smells like dried fish, cheap tobacco, and the exhaust fumes of old Chinese delivery trucks. You can find almost anything here if you have the right currency to show the vendors. No one wants to use the official North Korean currency because the paper bills are essentially worthless for international trade. Instead, the entire market operates on a mixture of Chinese yuan and crisp American $100 bills. You walk up to an older woman wearing a thick padded coat and give her a specific nod. She looks around the square to ensure no officers are watching, then reaches into a deep sack of dried beans. She pulls out a small, shiny plastic wrapper containing a South Korean choco pie. A choco pie is a small chocolate-covered snack cake with a marshmallow filling that became a legendary commodity. These cakes were originally introduced through a joint industrial zone and quickly became an alternative currency. People would literally accept chocolate snacks as payment for rent or medical services because the value is so stable. It turns out that marshmallow fluff is a more reliable store of value than the central banking system. You slide a few Chinese coins across the plastic tarp and quickly drop the snack cake into your bag. Next to the food vendors are the people selling the most dangerous luxury items in the modern world. You are not looking for a piece of clothing or a kitchen utensil this evening. You approach a young man standing near a pile of old car parts and whisper a code phrase. He slips his hand into his jacket sleeve and produces a standard silver USB thumb drive. These tiny plastic drives are smuggled across the northern river border from China. Inside the book, panels of televisions or shoes. They do not contain secret corporate data, military blueprints, or illegal hacking software. They contain high-definition files of South Korean, romantic comedies, and pop music videos from Seoul. Possessing one of these drives is a direct ticket to a remote correctional facility for your entire family line. The government views foreign media as a psychological virus that can dismantle a regime faster than an army. But the physical demand for these shows is so intense that people will spend their entire life savings for a single drive. They want to watch a television show where ordinary people complain about their boss and eat fried chicken in well-lit restaurants. To a person living in Pyongyang, a basic sitcom about apartment roommates looks like a spectacular science fiction movie. You slide your remaining savings into the man's palm and push the USB drive deep into the toe of your shoe. You walk back toward your residential district as the final light of the sun disappears behind the mountains. As the night takes over the landscape, the entire city undergoes a bizarre transformation. It completely disappears from the face of the earth. If you examine NASA satellite photographs of the Korean peninsula at night, the visual contrast is jarring. Japan looks like a brilliant web of electric gold, and South Korea is a solid block of blinding white light. But right between them sits a massive, perfectly black void that matches the deep darkness of the ocean. That black hole is the physical reality of the country you inhabit. The national power grid is so broken that the state cannot maintain electricity to the capital after nightfall. The power grid will snap off without a moment of warning right while you are eating your bowl of corn rice. The lights die, the fan stops spinning, and the entire apartment block falls into a heavy, suffocating silence. But human beings are remarkably resourceful when they are pushed into a corner by history, instead of sitting in the dark, waiting for the dawn. The citizens have engineered an underground utility grid. If you look closely at the balconies of the concrete buildings during the day, you will see cheap solar panels. These small glass rectangles are smuggled from China and attached to the concrete railings with wire. The citizens spend the daylight hours harvesting the sun, like post-apocalyptic survivalists in a movie. They run thick rubber wires from the balcony into old lead-acid car batteries hidden beneath their beds. At night, that car battery becomes the most valuable possession in the entire household. You wait until 9 o'clock when the street patrols have completed their primary rounds through the courtyard. You pull heavy wool blankets over your apartment windows to prevent a single candle flicker from escaping into the street. You gather your family in the center of the room on the floor, breathing softly in the darkness. You pull the silver USB drive out of your shoe and plug it into a small plastic media player, powered by the car battery. The tiny screen lights up, casting a soft blue glow across the faces of your family members. For the next 90 minutes, the concrete walls around you seem to dissolve into the background. You are no longer a numbered citizen inside the most isolated society on the face of the planet. You are just an ordinary human being escaping from reality into a story about a world where people can walk down the street without checking their hair in the mirror. So what about you? Would you survive a single week under the fashion police? Or would you get your hair cut on the sidewalk before lunch? Let me know down there.